to hide.
Hey, hello everyone. Welcome to yet another episode of Mattitude, your ESC United live stream where we talk about, I'll give you 1 second to guess. Yes, you guessed it right. Eurovision. My name is Matt, if you don't know, and I'm here to just talk about what has happened over the past week. Eurovision 2024 came to a close, and we have a winner and all of that stuff, and it's always good to reflect. I do this every year to see, where we're at, how we feel. Of course, this year around, it's a little different, maybe. Those who pay attention probably know what I'm talking about. Those who just pop in just because for fun, you're in for a wild ride, so you better buckle up. So I just wanted to say hi to everyone and hope you had a good day, good week, at least in normal terms. So I am here to talk you through. Before we do so, of course, make sure to hit that like button on this video because the algorithm is cruel on YouTube and you can help us for free on that. Of course, I will answer as many questions as humanly possible. And as always, at ESC United, that is very helpful so I can see them. And of course, super chats are always answered first. I think I have my wonderful moderators in the chat. Much appreciated, all of your hard work and dedication. So I think that's basically all we have to address in the beginning. And as always, my intent was actually to just be very, very laid back and relaxed and have fun. Of course, there's a lot to cover, and I will do my best. I brought my drinks. What's my coffee? Oh, emergency alert. I can't find my coffee is right here. Oh, that always took a turn for the worse. Cannot do without my second cup of coffee. Yummy. So let's talk this through here a little bit and see what has been going on. And a lot has happened since over the last couple of weeks, especially the last week, but even just the second week of rehearsals. As we were all approaching the grand finale last Saturday. And since Nemo was crowned the winner with their song, The Code, congrats to Nemo and Switzerland. We've had a lot of updates trickling in and regarding whether it's the disqualification of the Netherlands and the alleged behavior by the Israeli delegation, behind the scenes concerned raised by several broadcasters and delegations and the EBU as well. So we want to be fair and address everything as much as possible. And let's see what happened, talk this through. As always, I should say, let's talk Eurovision. That is our slogan. So as pointed out, the grand final took place last Saturday and ended in the early hours of Sunday with Nemo literally breaking the winning trophy, which is a first, but it's almost symbolic and to how this Eurovision went down, actually. That means we all have to save up a lot of money if we want to head to Switzerland, the most expensive country in Europe. Can win, but we are still far away from picking a host city. I know there's a lot of rumblings going on, certain cities saying whether they are interested or not interested in hosting. So the team said that they're thinking they're going to make a decision around September. So, and we'll go into some of the other stuff as well. I got a super chat already. Thank you so much, ESC Nico. Thank you so much for your coverage this Eurovision season. Love from Denmark. Right. Love back to you as well. I've been to Copenhagen now twice, and I mean, I haven't been to that many Nordic cities, but the ones I've visited is my favorite. So yeah. So thank you back. So I did put up I mean, you know the answers, but let's just talk it through real quick. The results of the two semifinals. We know and it's a little blurry, unfortunately. If I can make it smaller, maybe it looks a little bit better. But anyways, you kind of know the results. Croatia with Baby Lasagna owned the first semi. Well, kind of owned. You can say Croatia and Ukraine owned the first semifinal, coming first and second respectively, close in points. And there's a little bit of a gap with Ireland coming in third. And I think that's already reason to celebrate, just for the reason that Croatia, I don't think, has ever won a semifinal, and this has been the best result. Just as beautiful to witness that, especially from a song that wasn't even supposed to be in the national final, was written by the singer. And just, that's what I love about this one, is don't overthink it. This is exactly, send a songwriter that is connected to the song, knows the song in and out, and you get something really good. And it worked here, absolutely. And as you can see up and down, Serbia is the lucky borderline qualifier, coming in 10th place with 47 points. That means the unlucky borderline non-qualifier, Australia, Electric Fields, missed the finale by only 6 points, and somebody had to come last, y'all. In this case, it was Iceland, only receiving 3 points total. 3, poor Hera, but she's still our queen, and I won't hear anything else, or you'll be banned. Now, seriously, so I'm sad for her, but it was not a surprise. Then in semi 2, Israel was the televote winner, and the Netherlands, which got DQ shortly after. We'll talk about that as well. A close second, though, so it was also really close. Norway came in 10th, and we all know they came last in the finals. Czechia came close, finishing in 11th place. Bummer for Aiko. Last place in the semi, sadly reserved for Malta, even though Sarah really put forward a great show and staging, but it just wasn't meant to be, I guess. So that is sad. But I never really had a chance to talk about these actual results. And so it was sad. But, there's only so much space in the grand final. And we'll talk about some of the surprises or non-surprises. Overall, Team United results were pretty on the nose in terms of qualification. There's each semi, we had 9 out of 10. In semi 1, we didn't think that Slovenia would make it, although we had Slovenia's 11th place in our prediction. And they did a little better and qualified. And therefore made it. We thought that Poland would sneak in still because of the diaspora, but that didn't happen. And then in semi 2, we got them all right, except for the out of nowhere qualification from Latvia, which I'm so happy about. I'm so happy that they made it. And we did think that even though Belgium's momentum was shrinking, that it would be enough, that they would be the borderline qualifier. But that did not happen. But other than that, it was pretty on the nose in terms of how we predicted. And, as the delegation said goodbye in Malmo to one another, started their way home, a lot of, first of all, RTS, the Swiss broadcaster, started already conversation, preliminary discussion about the host city. But as pointed out, that is more to come later down the road. I know that there are a lot of controversy that we are going to discuss, but we also should celebrate some of the great things first, right? First of all, I'm happy that Luxembourg is here to stay. My biggest fear was if they were to have a bad result, that they would withdraw after 1 year, but they already confirmed their participation for next year. And I know some of you have opinions about that as well. I know you do. Hold them. We'll talk about that as well. And overall, the show, I thought about this show, putting all the drama aside, if even possible, right? It was a good show. I think it was slick. It was effective. Petra did it flawlessly. Malin didn't stand out badly either, but it was just a smooth show. I don't think this will be the Eurovision where we'll go back and say that this memorable Innovel act or thing happened. It was just very slick, to the point, cute, funny moments. Some of them may not age as well, especially the Martin Osterdahl um, fan wank song, but other than that, I think it was done well. I want to give a big shout out to Edward Assilin, who was one of the one who has done the other Eurovision as well. He's very good, very passionate, and very kind about this. So I'm sad that this is always what will be remembered of the show, is the fact that all the controversy, not the hosting. Maybe as time moves on, we'll think back more fondly of some of the things that has happened. Right now, we're just all very, very exhausted, but it wasn't all bad. So I think we need to be very careful just to be all like everything sucked. And I also want to like the people that this is the end of Eurovision. It's not. Eurovision will continue. Even if the worst case scenario happens and we only have one show because so many countries will withdraw, it will still happen. So Eurovision is not going to go away. Eurovision has been through several different moments in time that seem like and I will look at with a silver lining to a certain extent, because I do think an overhaul and a review of what's happening within the EBU, regardless of what you think about the Israel situation, the Dutch drama, I think I have been for years calling out the EBU as much as possible without getting too much on the bad side, because you're always worried about repercussions. But I've been seeing the things that were happening behind the scenes, and I've been trying to call them out as much as possible. So maybe now that there are other things happening, that there is more support coming from delegations, more media, the EU, even, that will bring people's attention. Thank you so much for the super chat, Eric. A start for Switzerland. All right, that will maybe pay for half a coffee, but no, that's fine. Thank you so much. I know it'll be fine, because probably what we'll do is share an Airbnb or something like that. And hopefully, I do know that the EBU also requires affordable housing, basically. So we'll see how that's all going to pan out. So let's see how that's all going to pan out. So there were a lot of good things. And I think also we need to point out so much diverse music again this year. So many songs that qualified from the semis that are in non-English. And I think this is the comeback of just this overly overproduced English music. And nothing wrong with English songs. Don't get me wrong, but there was always this perception that you have to perform in English in order to succeed at the contest. Sure, the winner this year is in English, fair enough, and so the two, but there are so many other songs that were competitive that could have done really well, and we have seen in recent years how non-English songs also have done really well. So I am very happy about that. That again, this is not for me to poo-poo on English songs, because there are plenty of good English songs. The Code being one of a prime example. So yeah. There has been a lot of good stuff. So I know that we're all getting not stuck, rightfully so, some of the other things that has happened out there. And if you follow me on social media, I'm on, I will not say X, Twitter. It'll always be Twitter for me, Matt, ESC United. You can get a more unfiltered opinion of me as well. So, and we'll see what's going to happen next year, because I know there's a lot of talk about countries withdrawing, and we are too far out about that. However, there were also a bunch of delegations who sent letters to the EBU talking about that. But we'll dive into that in just a moment as well. And I had some of my links up here, so I got to bring them up again. So just hold on for that as I'm bringing that up. But basically, let's talk about some of the things that has happened. I know the two major discussions, but there's more, of course, with Israel and the Dutch entry, but there are other things that has happened around that as well, because it really, really goes. And people talk about here the 20 votes needs to be changed. I will talk about the televote as well in a little bit, and remind me in case I forget, because I tweeted about that a couple of days ago as well, that I think that we paid so much attention to fixing the juries that we neglecting the televote. Now, people are saying, well, you're only saying that because of Israel. No, I said it before. The televote is not perfect. And that is why I'm against 100% televote. And I'm a big proponent of the 50-50 system. So that's why I'm saying that. This is just another example of the many examples that we have seen. And trust me, if they don't change the televote, I will say it again next year. So this is a consistent approach on my end. It's not just something that popped up today. I just want to be fair. So let's talk about, obviously, we all know. I'm not going to go into too much detail of what happened because I think everyone that is here tonight knows what happened in terms of Israel. So I don't have to go for all the ins and outs. Just a quick summary. Before, actually, thank you so much, Dr. Russ, for the super chat. Thanks for all the hardworking and talented ES United team members for your 24 coverage. How many of the countries in this year's top 10 do you think will be in the top 10 next year? How am I supposed to know that? I think everyone that's in the top 10 this year, a lot of them are recurring countries. Switzerland, yes. France, Sweden, Italy. The ones that stand out, maybe like we don't see them as much in a long time, is Croatia, right? Croatia doing so well, and that was exciting. So I can see Croatia hopefully learning from this. I know that was luck, a lot of people are saying, but I'm hoping. I have a lot of optimism when it comes to the Croatian broadcaster to realize, okay, we were wrong. This is working, and more of the entries that they usually deny will return. They know that this can happen. So, but I think all the other ones, I think anybody could make the top 10 out of those that this year. A lot of them, again, have been recurring candidates. Anyway, let's go back to Israel. We all know it sparked controversy at the very beginning from the get-go due to the Israel-Hamas conflict, and there were demands for the Israel's exclusion from the get-go. And when then the EBU refused, various campaigns emerged everywhere, urging participants and viewers to boycott the contest. Their Israeli national selection also faced a lot of issues. We all know that, with a chosen entry being rewritten several times because October Rain was obviously too political, even political still in its accepted nature. The original song, as pointed out, October Rain, was seen as referencing the 23 Hamas-led attack on Israel, violating the political neutrality, etc., etc., and then ultimately renamed Hurricane. But the song essentially stayed the same with just a few lines changed. And then some acts that rejected the boycott, but still called for peace in the region. And what we know now, another super chat. Let me jump that in real quick. Thank you so much, Ellen. Hi from Australia. I got back from Europe on Friday night, so I'm still beating the jet lag. I'm proud of myself for attending the ESC person this year. I hope you had a lot of fun, Ellen, despite all of the drama. Funny thing is, I didn't even go to Eurovision this year, and I'm still jet lagging because of my very upside down schedule in the US, actually. So we know that the EBU declined the lyrics of the song October Rain by the Israeli broadcaster Khan twice, right? We said that. And some are saying this could have been the opportunity to say, you know what, you tried to make it political. This is not your year. But the Israeli government, Netanyahu, intervened and said, nope, we changed it. We have to be there. And we need to be in Eurovision, change the lyrics. And ultimately, that is what happened. Then lots of discontents with the fans and many participating acts and delegations as well. They also put out an official letter at some point, which is, it sucked because, that resulted in a lot of harassment towards those artists as well. The EBU actually had to put out an Israel FAQ, which has never happened before. Why are they in the contest? Why aren't they acting on it and all of that stuff, right? Something we've never seen before, and they just wanted to have that out there and the reasoning why Israel is in. The EBU went to great lengths to prevent even like the mildest symbolism at the contest. We know what happened to Eric Sade's performance not being loaded afterwards because of his kafefe, his cultural. He's Palestinian, half Palestinian, so that's part of his culture, he feels. We know about Bambi Thug having to change the ceasefire in Italian writing, old Italian writing on their face. It was previously approved, and then the EBU last second said, nope. So it's very interesting how that changed. Like, girl, you got to change that. It was very interesting about that as well. We also know that anti-booing technology was implemented for Israel only, meaning the microphones of the audience ones turned off and the pre-recorded cheers to cover up the actual reaction of the audience to make it sound like Israel is being, not booed, but actually loudly cheered. And you could still hear some of it, but for the most part, it was covered up quite effectively. And that is basically, in a nutshell, what has happened over until that point in time. Of course, there has been a lot of discussion since that. And I know a lot of people have a lot of thoughts, and forgive me if I cannot get to them right away, but I will go through them as much as I can, especially when I'm done going through like the news that the info itself. I think there needs to be a rule about how many changes a song can have before the EBU decides to boot the country out. Belarus was allowed one change, and they were kicked out. Actually, there was more than one change, I believe. I think there were at least two. But I don't disagree with your assessment here. So a lot of broadcasters started, a lot of more behind the scenes, some more publicly speak out against the EBU's actions. There are a lot of them. And one, I think the prime example is what Slovenia's broadcaster put forward. And it was a very interesting article. I will try to find that one in just a second. I had it up, but I had to reboot my computer and I forgot to bring it back up. But it basically addresses a lot of the issues that most of the fan media, regular fans, and just even mainstream media had concerns about. So I'm bringing it up here right now. I tried to put it on screen, but it's also again too blurry. So I will just read parts of this particular statement, and then we'll address that as well. But basically, Television Slovenia has addressed some of the most urgent questions to the EBU leadership due to the events and consequences of this year's contest. RTV Slovenia had already called for a professional discussion before the contest, and as a result, after this Eurovision Week Slovenia, which traditionally takes care of the ESC project, gathered some urgent questions resulting from this year's event and incident related to it. We point out that the song contest is an extremely important project for the song contest for Television Slovenia and Slovenia. That is an event with great visibility in our country and among our musicians, and that RTV Slovenia is happy to be part of the story. This is why, after this year's controversial Eurovision Week, Slovenia is asking for some concrete answers to the most pressing questions, and it would like to use these issues to encourage wider debate on the future and the development of the song contest, which has already stated, unfortunately, been marked by a number of controversial topics this year. Television Slovenia therefore asked the EBU for information on the vote of Slovenian audiences, not just the number of votes, but precise information on how the Slovenian audience voted. The overall result raises some doubts, in particular the large number of new voters online, which have not been there before. Television Slovenia requires, among other things, requests further clarification from the EBU with regards to the exclusion of the Netherlands, the reporting of certain media, and the actual sound image of what is happening in the hall was replaced by technical means, on the ban on the EU flag, on the possible influence of the sponsor, on the content of the event. Television Slovenia calls on the EBU to discuss the introduction of the rest of the world vote, what the purpose is, and why should the outcome of the competition be impacted by citizens of countries who do not participate in the song contest. Finally, Television Slovenia also calls for the consideration to be given of ways in which the EBU members' opinions can be more effectively integrated in the planning of the selection and when making key decisions, or how the established more democratic decision-making system in the future. A lot to unpack in a very short article here, right? Oh, paragraph. It was so much, and we can go for them one by one. But before we do that, I first of all, the reason why I wanted to read this one, because it's like on the nose, like addressed everything that we were concerned about as well. And actually, we talked about it before in other videos, how the Dutch broadcaster had commentator had some thoughts, but Stig Carlson, who is the Norwegian head of delegation for many years and is highly widely respected, also spoke out. They spoke to Wee Wee Blogs, by the way, so credit to them. I'm going to read you that as well, what Carl has said. Actually, not Carl, Stig Carlson, Stig. Carl Stickson, whatever. There's no doubt that the reputation of the Eurovision Song Contest has been significantly damaged this year, and it is now crucial that the EBU quickly takes action. The EBU needs to stop blaming the delegation and artists for the scandals that surrounded Eurovision 2024 and acknowledge the core problem. They need to be more humble and take responsibility for the damage done. They should return to the office and start communicating with both the broadcasters, the general public, and the fans. I believe everyone wants a constructive dialogue and to find ways to bring the Eurovision Song Contest back on track. We owe it to the millions of people who believe in unity, diversity, peace, love, and celebration of life and music. We owe it to everyone. If the EBU makes wise and necessary moves to secure the values of the concept, then it should indeed be possible to get the situation sorted and the process of healing can begin. The reputation of Eurovision goes hand in hand with MGP, which is the Norwegian national final, and all the other national finals. What the EBU does is now crucial for the future of Eurovision and the national selections as well. However, they need to act quickly. Time is running out of the broadcasters that conduct national selections. Right now, it's a tough task to get artists, songwriters, partners, and team members to engage and commit to the project. NRK is holding internal meetings as we speak. The next step will be carry the discussions over to the EBU. So a lot has happened. And I also want to be careful because we all have strong opinions, right? I'm sure you do too. So do I. We just need to be very careful not to completely villainize anyone, even if it's so easy to do so. And I know some have more blame to take than others, fairly, but I just want to be careful with, because there's always this fine line between constructive criticism and insults. So that's all I'm saying. But let's go back. So these are some really strong statements, and there are a bunch of others. Information. The Portuguese broadcaster also has spoken out against, the symbolism, because Portuguese performance was not uploaded because of the nail polish, and then they also had criticism about the anti-booing. So let's go for them a little bit in detail, and I would love to hear your thoughts as well. Try to stay on topic, and I'll show them on screen at ESC United where possible. First of all, thank you for this compliment, Michael. Love you guys, Matt, and all the info and commentary. I attended my first person ESC in Malmö, and I actually met and chatted with Gabe, that bitch, at the Eurovision Cafe, and my life is now complete. Now, I'm so glad you got to meet Gabe, since I didn't get to meet him this year. So I'm glad you got to hang out. Yeah, he's a nice guy, obviously. Otherwise, he wouldn't be with ESC United. So... and I know that apparently was another super chat. I'm trying to keep up with everything. I was reading, and when I was reading, I didn't see that. Here we go. Oh, no, we got that one already. Ellen, never mind. I read that one already. Thank you again. So let me go through the one by one here. So we point out that we love Eurovision, blah, blah, blah. Slovenia, therefore, asks the EBU, Television Slovenia, for information on the vote Slovenian audiences, not just the number of votes, but precise information on how the Slovenian audience voted. The overall results raise some doubts, in particular the large number of new voters online, which have not been there before. So let's dissect that one first. So what they are claiming is that the votes for Israel were disproportionate to how Slovenia voted in the past, and that these votes that showed up have never been there before. And that implies what has already been out there in the media, that the Israeli government, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, has been heavily, and they admitted it, the broadcasters and all of that they pumped a lot of money and resources to get people to vote for Israel, those who have never watched the contest before, and then to use that particular successful televote to justify saying, what they're doing is appropriate. So it's a big issue that that a lot of people perceive as political, using the vote to justify the means. So that is what's going on, and that is one of the things. Now, we can argue until the cows come home. The results are in, and I don't think that even if it's found out that Israel and the EBU confirmed all of it happened, that it is technically against the rules, because I don't think the rules are in place for that. So what we can learn from it, and it's not just Israel. We've seen other countries before, Azerbaijan trying to fix the the televote, right, and other countries as well. But it just has done to such a unique extent by Israel that it's become an even bigger issue. However, I've been consistent on speaking out fixing the televote. That's why I'm very much against getting rid of the juries or even limiting their impact at this point, because the televote can also be heavily influenced. So you're asking me, well, how to fix it, Matt? I'm like, I don't know. I'm not saying it like I have the answer per se, but certainly the EBU has not tried anything to fix it, right? We had conversations about maybe we can do something similar to what Junior is doing, where you have to vote for at least 3 countries or 5 countries. I forgot what number. Something to that effect. That you cannot just vote for one country, that you have to vote for a handful of countries in order to submit to minimize potential, you know, one vote only votes. If you have 20 votes per phone number or per credit card, I think it is, right? Then you can get a credit card from a different country and can vote again, all of that stuff. So it is just so easily to manipulate the vote. And they understand money talks because there are so many different parts of it, that are difficult to predict and how it will impact it. But we need to start somewhere. And we haven't done any changes or fixes for many, many years. And the EBU doesn't even want to address it. There's the reason why for the first time this year, we didn't even get a press conference with the EBU. The EBU is so pro freedom of press, but they are not willing to speak to the press. They're very hush-hush and makes it very, very difficult. That's why you see a lot of these comments. There needs to be some kind of limits on how much money broadcasters, labels, government can spend on their advertising. It gives rich countries such an insane advantage if they use it. Yes, and it's not just even rich countries. I mean, Malta even has done, but the question is, should any advertisement be allowed? I don't see a problem if a local artist like, come on, here's my song, vote for me, wee, that kind of stuff I can understand. Personally, I would throw a line, no kind of advertisement, but I understand it's a little bit more tricky than that. So that is one of the things that I would like to certainly address, that this has to be fixed. And we talked about the juries ad nauseum. And if you want me to talk about my concerns about the jury, happy to oblige. But right now I'm just talking about the televote. It is certainly something that needs to be fixed. And some people talk about including a demoscopic jury. So certainly something that can take into account kind of what Sanremo is doing. And I think they do it in Spain as well. I know many Benidorm Fest. Those who don't know what a demoscopic jury is, it's basically there's like professional juries, like music producers, artists, songwriters, blah, 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 kind of what we have in Eurovision juries right now, right? Then we have a demoscopic jury, which basically represents average Joes and Janes, just regular people that are being put on a jury. There's like 100 or whatever, and then they vote for their favorite. It's more representative of the overall taste in music. And then, of course, you can have the public vote where everybody can call in, and that one is open to anyone, and you can send as many votes, like that's what we have right now with the televote, where there are very few restrictions, except you can only vote 20 times. So it kind of like just minimizes, like what we've had with Israel this time around. You can even make a case maybe because, a couple of years ago we had Ukraine win the televote by such a landslide. It wasn't an emotional vote. They didn't have a campaign. Obviously, Ukraine didn't have any money. They were focusing on the war. But still, they won it by such a landslide. Would have happened with a demoscopic jury? We don't know, right? But those are just things that can be taken into account. And that is what I'm saying. I'm not here sitting saying, I have the solution to everything. I'm the master. No. But what I believe is fixing things, working towards a better system. And we haven't fixed anything in so many years. And that is, long overdue. Sinna saying, I think the song promotion is fine, though record labels or the artists themselves, but when governments are plastering the vote number everywhere and not even the song, it's unfair. Like what they did in Times Square. I know, right? And it's not just that. I mean, even when you watched my videos on EC United, you got all these ads before vote Israel and so much more. I get it. So it is certainly an issue and it needs to be addressed. I'm also not interested in, crying over spilled milk, but we can use that to prevent it happening again. And no matter how you feel about the outcome, because I have issues as well. One thing I will say, and I don't want to piss anyone off, but I do think, and I received so much backlash and hatred for, limiting our coverage for Israel and speaking out where I feel it's unfair. I also urged people not to delete Israel from your results or like pretending they weren't there. speak out against it if you feel that this is an issue, because I do it. But by pretending they were not even there in the first place, that also sits unwell with me, because there is historical context there that makes me uncomfortable as well. I know why it's done. I understand that, but I don't think it's productive. So that's my only ask. If is don't pretend Israel doesn't exist in the contest, even last year, even it's upsetting as it was. So when we can point fingers at a lot of the Israel, the delegation, what they have done, the government, but this is an issue even more for me for the EBU. So that is very, very important to me. So, and even more important to me, don't attack individuals, people. I've seen it. I mean, one side, again, it's just like when I talk about it, it's really about the organizations, the government, not the people of a specific country or fans, nothing. So we need to also be very careful about that, because I know it has gotten so ugly. And I always try to draw that line that this is not about the people. What if only one vote per phone number, credit card were allowed? It'd still be possible to go around, but such a large campaign like that would happen this year would be harder to organize. That's one option we could try, but then of course the money part comes into play. All the broadcasters, the EBU, make money, a lot of money off of the televote, so they want that. I always said, and I don't know how to get that done, but I wish the televote could vote in similar fashion as the juries, mean ranking the songs. Like the juries have to rank them all from 1 to 25 or 6. If you have the televoters pick their top 5, their top 10 ranking and submit those, I think that would be so much better. Some kind of ranking system, so that not one song gets all the and then makes it very difficult. So that would be one thing that I would suggest. But again, that's just another solution of the 55 I just mentioned already. But see, the point is, again, ideas, throw them out there, try something. So I think that is certainly what it is. This year has been very damaging for the contest. Do you think there's going to be more withdrawals? Based on my sources, yes. On my sources, if nothing changes, there will be withdrawals. I cannot give any names or countries yet, because, I can't. But there will be withdrawals if nothing changes. That's why this is so urgent to address, and it cannot wait. And I'm glad Slovenia, Norway, and some of the others speak out, and there are more. So that's why we need to fight for this, because we don't want any countries to withdraw. We want more countries to take part. But it just shows that this needs an overhaul, Eurovision. Again, put the Netherlands aside, put Israel aside. It's just the secrecy, the hypocrisy, and all of that. That is the issue. And I put the blame mostly on the EBU on this one. Not all of it. It's easy on a point, but the problem I've had for years, and it was hard because I didn't have much support, but I've been speaking out, is there seems to be the secrecy and especially since the latest supervisor took over, in terms of power, like zero communication, and none of the broadcasters, except for the very big ones, have any say in this. So if the big broadcasters say one thing, that's what the EBU does. Now, if the smaller broadcasters speak out, it's like, you can always withdraw. You know what I mean? So it is something that needs to be addressed, and it needs to be fair. I understand Germany has more people watch, they pay more, but Slovenia matters. They're equal, like in terms of participation. So that is for me a concern. So that's why this is an important point in time for Eurovision, for the EBU. And once again, I'm not asking for any resignations. I'm not asking for anyone to be fired, because that would be terrible. I hate that thought, because people try to go after me not getting any accreditation. Some people try to get me fired from my real life job. So it has been bad, and I do not want to contribute to that kind of environment. But we can hold people accountable, and then people can make their own decision and see if that would be an appropriate step. But anyways, so that is basically the first part about the voting, right? That was a big issue in the televote, and that needs to be addressed to prevent that from happening, not just with Israel, but with any country. Because let's just say Israel won't take part next year, or they go back to things way before. The next country could be like, oh, wait a second. I could guarantee ourselves a really good position if we do all of that. Not everyone has the same resource and all that stuff. I get that. But it's certainly, if that continues to be allowed or not fought for, then I see issues in the future for the contest. And then also they're talking about requires, among other things, requests further clarification from the EBU with regards to the exclusion of the Netherlands. The reporting of certain media that the actual sound image of what has... Oh, wait, that's the next already. Um, so the Netherlands, another cute little little situation. Not sure if you heard, but the Netherlands wasn't in the grand final. I need so much coffee, you all. I'm on a caffeine high right now. Maybe I should switch to Coke Zero, because that helps. So let's talk about the Netherlands as well. And then you can ask questions at ESC United, of course. But let's talk this through. The Netherlands was disqualified because of that infamous incident that has happened. And we have several broadcasters being really upset, mostly the Dutch one of Rotos, but even other ones. You heard Slovenia, Portugal, a lot of other broadcasters came out in solidarity with the Netherlands, and that is exciting. Now, we also need to be careful because we only get information bits here and there. The EBU stands by its decision to disqualify the Netherlands based on what that, because they do not allow or tolerate a zero tolerance policy, I think they call it, towards any sort of bad behavior, if you will, which is, again, hypocritical because there's plenty of other bad behavior that has happened, not just this year, but in previous years, and nothing happened. So it seems very interesting. Now, the problem is that Joost Klein was judged based without a proper investigation. We had less than 24 hours. You cannot have a full investigation within 24 hours into that. And the EBU made that decision to disqualify when there was clearly discontent with other broadcasters, especially the Dutch one. And ultimately, the decision was made to get rid of them. And as the information slowly trickles out, the most recent one we have, by the way, is actually from Joost Klein's own attorney about this. Basically, what the attorney is saying, Joost was getting off the stage on his way to the green room. There was a photographer or camera person that was harassing him, and I guess there was an agreement in place not to record there, and the person declined to listen to Joost's wishes to not record, and then apparently he pushed the camera down or away, but there was no threatening language used, but there was like, get away, camera, right? That kind of thing. So that apparently, if we can believe the attorney, was enough to disqualify the Netherlands. Now, once again, there's still room for interpretation. What did Joost do? Did he more like take it away and push it away, or was he like slapping it hard and like almost the hand, or like, that kind of stuff? So from what we're hearing, that was not the case, but there's still some gray room in there. So it's fair to hold off on final judgment. Oop, another super chat. Matt, if the conflict is still ongoing next year, should Israel be allowed to participate? Will the EBU learn anything from this year? Thanks. Well, thanks all. First of all, thank you for the super chat. And in terms of will they learn anything? If it's ongoing next year and Israel is taking part, I know that there are delegations that will broadcast that will not take part. So there will be less countries in the running. Will the EBU learn from this? That is now the moment in time we're in, and see if they will. If they take responsibility, as the Norwegian head of delegation said, the EBU needs to take responsibility. You are the head. The head takes responsibility. If, for instance, one of my team members acts up, I have to take responsibility for it and say that was not cool. But the EBU doesn't do that. It seems like they point the fingers at the artist, they point the fingers at the fans, they point the fingers at the delegations, but never ever admit any sort of wrongdoing. And that is an issue. So, but thank you for the question, yes. And so to get back to the Dutch situation, so what we know right now, based on what we heard, that the camera was pushed away, and that was enough for disqualification. The EBU doesn't provide us anything more. The police investigation is still ongoing. I think most of us believe proven guilty until the opposite, not guilty until proven guilty. So his performance would have not made a difference there in terms of it. We all know by now that Netherlands wouldn't have won with that jury score that we saw. I think they got like 58 points from the juries, but nevertheless, he would have done probably really well with the televoters, like potentially top 3, right? So it sucks. I think even if he's found like has to pay a fee for that because it's against Swedish rules or laws, Based on what we know right now, that still seems very dramatic. Very dramatic. And if he's found not guilty, that would be even worse. Then the EBU looks really, really bad. The police even said, it's not going to be much more investigation because it's such a minor incident. I'm paraphrasing here right now. So it's just, I don't know what led to this dramatic decision last second. It's just a lot. It's just such a strong reaction, and it is really. According to Aftenbladet, witnesses said he was behaving very aggressive. Now, that is Aftenbladet. I'll take that with a grain of salt. The Aftenbladet has been wrong many, many times. They're a gossip newspaper. And we have to wait and see. And we don't know what aggressive means. Aggressive is also very, very subjective. So the point is, we did not, there was not enough time to do a proper investigation. We did our thorough investigation in less than 24 hours. I'm like, but I'm also careful with, just saying, no, but I think the EBU in the long run will probably regret this decision. Because it was this is a dramatic, there was not just Joost that was out, everyone, all the artists on stage, the delegation, and it's just crazy to me. Strikes me as odd that the EBU hasn't put out an account of what happened. If Avrotos and Klein's lawyers have put out accounts, they must not think they're prejudicial, so why not the EBU? The EBU always stays quiet about anything as much as possible. They only put out statements if they absolutely feel the need to do so. That's why the issues, they're not very transparent, which is always ironic for the European Broadcasting Union. They've been very non-transparent forever, but it's gotten worse and worse over the years. So it's, in the past, at least, I was able to communicate with the press team online to get more information. Now they don't even respond. They just say a decision will be made. It's like, but I need to know a little bit of information. The decision will be made. We're not talking to you. I'm like, great, whatever. Now, from a EB perspective, they know they have to stick to their guns right now. They cannot waver a little bit, because then it looks like they're certainly wishy-washy. So from a certain extent, I can understand why they're sticking with what their statement they're saying, because, if they waver now, they're like, okay, then their heads will roll for sure. So I understand to a certain extent, but they will have to sleep in the bed they made, whatever the outcome may be. So it still sucks, and I personally still will withhold final judgment. But yeah, it does stink, especially with everything else that is going on. Come on, this year I was awful and the votes were allegedly influenced. I think that should be a song contest and not a political contest. It is true, it should be a song contest, but I said it before, and people get always mad at me when I say that Eurovision is inherently political to a certain extent. We try to minimize it, but you cannot have a contest between countries that it has subjective criteria. This is not the Olympic Games. You cannot say, Sweden won the 100-meter dash, but I think Slovenia, in my opinion, was faster. Like, no, we saw the videos. Sweden ran faster, Yeah, but to me, Slovenia was faster. I'm like, no, that's objective. You cannot discuss that. Music is subjective, what you like and what is good and not. I mean, sure, you can make some cases saying, this is clearly cheaper writing, but you cannot fight on what people like or not like. So, and what people are comfortable voting for and not voting for. So it is an issue that has always existed and will always exist. And the sooner we acknowledge that, the better off we are. So I understand that. No one, on a perfect world, I'd rather not have it either, but denying the reality also doesn't help us. Thank you so much, Daniel, for the super chat. What did William do? Sorry, Joost. The pressure on the EBU must have been huge to disqualify the sixth largest contributor, from whom no comment. Willem? Who's Willem? Is Willem? Do you mean William from Weeby Blocks? I don't get that one. What did William? I don't know who William is. The pressure on the EBU must have been. Please clarify, because I'm stupid. Yeah, that's another issue, the Netherlands. So that'll be ongoing. Whether or not the Netherlands will take part next year is certainly a question. If this is not addressed by the time the not qualification. I'm looking for when you sign up for registration, not registration, confirmation, whatever, for the countries. That's, if we don't have a proper outcome, then I could see the Netherlands being out next year as well. Yeah. Although one, I don't know for sure. That's just speculation on my part. When I said I know about certain delegations, I do not know about the Netherlands at this point. Wouldn't it be common sense for the EBU to simply exclude countries beforehand when they are in war? No, I mean, I understand that this is an issue. I understand that, but the UK has been in wars. The Iraq War doesn't mean UK cannot take part. Yeah, I mean, there've been so many wars that's been going on. Now, they're not directly, maybe, although in Iraq there was. So it is very tricky. So should Ukraine be penalized for Russia going into them? So if Belgium pisses off the Netherlands, and the Netherlands just takes over, goes into Belgium, and using the most ridiculous example, should then Belgium be disqualified as well just because of the Netherlands' action? It's just the wildest example, I know, but you get my point. So I don't think that's necessarily the right thing either. So sometimes war is part, unfortunately, of life, right? And war has been addressed at Eurovision on multiple occasions. We had anti-war songs. We had, and I said it before, the EBU just right before they went, all about protecting Israel in this year's contest, they put out this big article about Portugal in the 1974 contest where their entry started a revolution and they were so proud about that. And look at what it's done. I'm like, read the room, y'all. You just talk about non-political, apolitical, blah, 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 but then you celebrate a song that started a revolution. So and I'm not having an issue with it. But it just, from their perspective, it seems very, very, complicated and double standard is. So, yeah, we can talk more about the Netherlands as well. I want to look at some of the other things that has happened. The reporting of certain media that the actual sound image of what is happening in the hall was replaced by technical means. So we know what that means. Let me translate the anti-booing technology in this particular case for Israel. So virtually the entire audience was heavily booing Israel for all of the shows, but you couldn't hear any of that during the live broadcast. Let me fix that. Not as loud. You could hear it was so loud, it was even not that easy to cover it because the EBU was playing a back soundtrack, or what's called, like a recording of cheers, covering up the boos, and the microphones of the audience were turned off and all of that. So it is a very dramatic decision that they have made towards one nation only. And that, of course, is an issue. You cannot treat one country differently. And I understand booing is uncomfortable, especially if you have, different opinions about the Israel-Hamas conflict and where Israel stands there. If I understand that. But I think it's fair to say you cannot just favor one country. And that is the issue here. I would be upset too if I had a song that was maybe not booed, but just get a smaller applause. I would want to have some of that backtrack too, making a louder applause, right? So that is certainly a concern that I would have. So some people point out in 2015 that had fake applause. That is true, but at number one, it sounded bad, and it was applied to every country. It was not selectively applied, and that I think is the issue. Finn is saying, not excluding those countries in conflict automatically results in sympathy votes. In other words, the competition affected by politics. It seems so simple to get rid of politics. Now, that would not be. And sympathy votes are not just for wars. And again, you cannot control. That would be unfair. Like, well, you may get sympathy votes, so therefore you're out. That's like, saying, my big brother beats the shit out of me, and then we're both grounded because, I don't want to have to hear you whine and that. I'm like, no, that is unfair. No, I'm pretty against that idea. I understand that you think it's like that way, if we punish everyone, we don't have any issues. That's our way of collateral damage. No, I'm absolutely against that. Then the next thing they talked about is the ban on the EU flag. That was pretty bad. Now, I understand that Noel Curran, the president of the EBU, said, well, this was just a very strict application of the flag rule this year, and we're going to review it for next year. The EU flag, because nothing. Well, now we only allow the 36 countries that are taking part, as well as the pride flag. I'm all in favor of the pride flag because inclusion, and but that's political too. Then, if the non-binary flag was banned, the pride flag is okay. The EU flag is not okay. Doesn't make sense. Once again, I'm in favor of it, letting these flags in. But you cannot make one statement, say, these are good according to our taste. Those are not so good. And it's just very, very dangerous. The EU flag ban was only for the final, and we all know it's banned because of Europapa fans used it. Yeah, I know. That was the next point I was going to make. We know probably because the song Europapa was all about the EU stars and flags on the stage, on the screen. And now that they're out, like, we cannot have any EU. We're gonna wipe off this memory and the idea of it. And it's just crazy. It's just such dramatic length that they're going for that. And yes, the EU got involved. And like, what the fuck, EBU? I'm sorry, I'm cursing a lot today, but it warrants it. So it's just crazy to me that they would, and I understand it was all last minute, and it's communicated to the security people, and they just have very strict rules, and they just do what they have to. So don't blame the security people. Don't blame the people actually stopping the individuals at the entrance. They got the rules. So once again, work your way up in the decision-making ladder. They want to get all the big bucks in those positions. Well, you better take responsibility for all the decisions that you make and the repercussions. You have to suffer from those as well. Or just be a security guy and make less money. So, yeah, that's basically how I feel. What else do we have here? The possible influence of sponsor on the content of the event. They're talking about Moroccan oil here, because Moroccan oil is an Israeli company, and it is perceived. I'm going to say perceived. There's no evidence. But the perception is that since sponsorship is so important in the EBU, because to pay all of the bills, and Moroccan oil is the biggest financial contributor to the EBU right now, that they cannot afford to lose them. Therefore, people believe that they get special treatment. If this all would have happened with Serbia, just picking one random country again that comes to mind first, and Serbia was not a big financial sponsor, would this story would have been different? We certainly don't know, but that is the perception of people, and perception is often reality, right? So, but TikTok is Chinese isn't also the best sponsors for Eurovision. I don't think so too. Well, China is not taking part in Eurovision, so I don't quite understand the connection there. Forgive me. So Television Slovenia calls on the EBU to discuss the introduction of the rest of the world vote. Another thing that we can address. Look, give me 1 second, y'all. My dog is getting wild, so I'm giving it a little treat. Do you want that, Gaston? Eat this. Okay, so where was I? Rest of the world. So rest of the world, as we all know, are countries that can vote that are not taking part in the contest. So any country, whether it's the US, New Zealand, South Africa, you name it, any country that's not taking part in Eurovision will be combined in one single set of the rest of the world vote. And the concern is, why do we have that in the first place? Is they're not taking part. I will say I'm actually in favor of a rest of the world vote. And especially since there's only one set of votes. And I understand in this case, it could have made a difference because, like 5 points or so separated the qualifier from the non-qualifier in the semis. But I do think Eurovision has grown. It's an international, global event now. I understand you cannot give each country the same weight. You cannot have Canada give the same amount of vote as Slovenia. But having one set of votes, I think, really brings the country together, the world together, and feel part of the event. Now, the problem is what we see in this time around, especially, since only the second year it's been used, having the rest of the world vote close before the show even airs. That is a concern. We understand why that is. It is because a lot of countries are asleep at that point, and they cannot vote when the show is on. It doesn't sound like a good excuse to me. You need to be able to watch the show. Australians stay up. Their televote counts. So it's to me, it's just an excuse to gather more votes and make more money. If you want to vote, you should be able to vote during that show. If you're not watching the show, you should not be able to vote because you don't have an idea. A recap is not enough. When you vote with the rest of the world, those who have seen it, you get like the recap of the songs, and that's it. It's not right. So I am still in favor of the rest of the world, but you need to watch the show, even if it's in the middle of the night for you. It's just fair. If you cannot watch it, we understand, but then you don't get to vote. It just needs to be moderated better. That's exactly what it is. And it's so easy to manipulate. And yes, it may not be the most urgent item because it's only one set of votes, but it still needs to be addressed. And I think with everything that's happening, I think that should be taken into account. So it's the second year of Rest of the World. Again, with everything that's going on, another learning opportunity. Yeah. So what else do they have in here? What is the purpose and why should the outcome of the competition be impacted by citizens of countries who do not participate in the song contest? Again, I addressed it already. I do feel as there is they shouldn't have over too much power, but having one set of votes, I think that just means inclusion and limited impact. Very, very, very limited impact. Finally, Television Slovenia also calls for consideration to be given to ways in which the EBU members' opinions can be more effectively integrated in planning of the selection and when making key decisions, or how they established a more dramatic decision-making system in the future. That was a long sentence. Were there any periods in there? Real quick, Rebecca saying the rest of the world may have actual work to EBU's disadvantage. It's drawn more global attention in a year. More went wrong, leading to the likes of CNN reporting issues. I know, I talked about that on my Twitter account as well. It's like, I've never seen this much reporting on CNN about Eurovision, especially before even the results were known. So it's what they call the Streisand effect, right? Which now should be renamed to the EBU effect, because this is on a whole different level. Now, talking about what Slovenia said, it's very important. I strongly advocate the inclusion of the less bigger delegations and broadcasters to have an equal say. I understand some broadcasters pay more money, and they already have so much more power. Direct qualification, hello. I mean, you get all the budget to go crazy staging, while Lithuania is always by themselves on stage. I understand they already have many, many advantages and benefits being a big contributor. But when it comes to decision making, they all should have an equal say. And as I said before, several delegations and broadcasters have complained in the past, but they were pushed aside because you're not big enough. In 22, the EBU actually said Russia should take part. It's apolitical, right? But then the big broadcasters, Germany, BBC, were like, what are you, nuts? And then you know what? Never mind. Russia's out. So that's basically what it comes down to. It's who has power, and that is the upsetting part. So yes, it is certainly an issue that I have been pointing out for a long time. No one cares what San Marino says, right? No one cares what Albania says. I care, but you get my point. Like in the people in charge. So, and that should be the point here. And someone says that's the principle of the EU. Yes, and that should be in the EBU as well, in Eurovision in particular. They all should have an equal say. The big countries, the big five, or even the other countries that have to qualify, they already are at a bigger advantage. Now, some do better than others executing those advantages. But the point is, they do have plenty of advantages. When it comes to that kind of stuff, though, you should have everyone included. And I truly, truly believe that you will bring other broadcasters back if they have a fair say in the process. Now, sometimes they do. They had like a vote a few years ago talking about, should we update the jury votes? At that point, every broadcaster got to vote, and heavily favored keeping the broadcasters and the juries in place. So sometimes they are. I'm not saying it never happens, but it's only when they want to have a democratic vote. So, and that is the issue. So I say fairness for all. So it is a different environment nowadays. And would love to hear what your thoughts are. I'm getting a little cold. I just realized my nose getting congested. So that is a lot that had happened in over the past week alone. Now imagine what's going to happen with the whole Israel situation, with the whole Netherlands situation, with all the other things that has happened, and how this progresses. This is going to be a long conversation. I know a lot of people want to have certain people removed from their positions. Again, I will not call for that. I leave the people who are actually impacted, the broadcasters, making that decision. But what I'm asking for is give everyone a fair and equal voice. And I would love to hear from you also on these things. I also want to point out, because I did say it earlier, one of my colleagues, Gabe, ESC Gabe, has been relentlessly attacked for reporting on what's happening on side, and it has gotten really, really nasty at some point, and it has to stop on all sides. But I want to defend, because I said it before in my last live stream as well. I think I have. If not, I'm telling for the first time, but I feel like in my head I've said it. I have received threats. I had to my job, to my life, to my family's life. I had to contact my local authorities to make sure that my family is okay. So it has gotten so bad that I'm glad that I didn't go to Eurovision for that exact reason. So it was, it's very, very difficult, and it just doesn't seem to stop. And just earlier today, a former member of the Czech delegation attacked Gabe big time. A whole video for being anti-Semitic as a Jew, of course, and speaking hate speech about basically what I'm saying here right now. So shutting down voices, just being fairly open-minded and, not in the middle, but certainly, objective, not neutral, but objective. There's a difference between being neutral and objective. And in that process, making really anti-Semitic statements themselves. And that's not cool. That is absolutely not cool. People asking, because they put a video out. You can go to Jan Bohr's YouTube channel, calling Gabe anti-Semitic, and basically also saying about Joost to stop crying. Saying it, I'm going to quote, "Everybody is shooting everything. And if you feel harassed about it, you are weak. You are just simply weak." So he said that about Joost Klein as well. And then talking about how Jewish people didn't want, decided not to fight back. And that's why the Holocaust happened. And we cannot let that happen again. It's like, what are you talking about? So it's getting really into bad territory here. So that is crazy. And I understand. I will say this. There are people, in my opinion, that have crossed the line with the Israel thing as well. I'm like, come on, you're not helping the cause here. But that happens with every movement, everything. And painting a broader picture about the exception, the bad apples, is not right. Just like we don't do that with, we have problems with what Israeli government has done. Most Israeli people are wonderful people. They are suffering. They're sad. So I don't think there's an issue with, I don't understand how we cannot just have that sort of an easy, understanding. So, but yeah, so that video went really crazy. I mean, I don't like when people attack my team members. I get a little bit. So feel free to watch the video, but you will not be able to comment because all the comments will be filtered out. Just as an early heads up, which is, they're right. Anybody can make that decision. Thank you for the kind words, by the way. Thank you for you and your team, Rules. Glad you're keeping up. Yes, and trying to be fair, right? By the way, if you have any other questions about Eurovision at ESC United, whether all about the controversy and other stuff as well, we don't only just have to talk about the bad. We can talk about the good as well. Let me know in the chat at ESC United. Of course, then to say, how is this going to continue? I think I kind of summarized it before. The Norwegian head of delegation summarized it perfectly. I don't have anything to add. Conversations need to happen. Conversations need to happen now and not in a few months when people thinking, water under the bridge. It's not going to happen, be water under the bridge. This needs to be addressed now. People need to be held accountable. I think people would be a whole lot more sympathetic towards the people in charge. If there would be some humble pie or some recognition of their actions, an apology goes a long way. People love to forgive people, whether or not some people may not. But if someone says, you know what, we messed up on this one, we made a premature decision and we shouldn't have done that in hindsight. This is something we learned. We're very sorry if people affected. It means something if it's genuine, of course. It's not a I'm sorry if what I said hurt your feelings kind of apology. That's always a bullshit thing. But I think that is what needs to happen. And that is exactly what we need to push for. And I've been pushing it for years. And hopefully now that so many more delegations and broadcasters and fans are tuned in on that, this will happen. This is the moment in time. And that's why I'm looking almost at a silver lining that I don't want to say this had to happen, but in some way it did, because now finally people are speaking out. So that is how I feel. So at this point, I'm not sure the EBU is capable of sincere communication. That is my concern. The people in charge of communication are really, really lacking common sense and empathy almost. It seems very cold. Like this how we feel that we know they're human behinds there. I understand you have to be. When I see certain government websites being more courteous and empathetic than the EBU, it's like, So, and I know that when we talk about this, when I talk about this, that I always put, a risk, there will be repercussions from the EBU when it comes to next year's Critter Minute. But I will also defend them on that. They have not done anything to prevent us from reporting on it previously. So I hope this will stay that way. And because I try to be as reasonable and fair as I can. And there's still pieces of the puzzles that we still need to locate. But yeah, I think that is FF saying, really, I think the EBU is just trying to sweep this under the rug. Yes, and that's what happened over the last few years. You see now other artists speak out about how they felt they were treated. And I understand when you sign up for Eurovision, there will be more scrutiny. We talk about it. No artist likes to say, oh, your song sucks, I hate your song, which I would never say anyways, me personally, but some people will. You will go for scrutiny and you sign up for that. But there is a line when you are on stage and in public and when you're behind the stage. And people need to take that definitely, and the mental health of the artist into account, and everybody else. I said it on Twitter before as well. I was also recorded against my will. And yes, when I'm at Eurovision, I should be expected recorded without my consent. If I don't think that's so, I'm weak. No. If I'm being recorded just for the sake of recording my personal conversations, that's an issue. And being watched. So yeah. So it is definitely an issue. Don't explain as a PR strategy is wild in the age of social media. That's what I'm saying. I think they're still stuck in the past a little, especially over the last 5-6 years. The contests have gone even more online than ever before. And in many cases, it worked in the contest's advantage, having the rest of the world vote, having more people from all across the globe watching the contest live or on demand later on. So it brings in more numbers, it brings in more people, and all of that stuff. So I think that's a wonderful thing, because I do think, I'm not saying that we can have a conversation whether or not the Eurovision Song Contest should expand or not, the pros and cons to everything, and that's not what I'm doing here. But I think more people watching is a great thing. But certainly, is there a need to bring in the contest a little bit, because hosting is now so expensive and so difficult. The requirements that the EBU put forward put so many countries and cities out of contention. The number of people that can be in the arena, how high the ceiling has to be, how many hotel rooms, and all of that stuff. And I understand why that is in place, but it makes smaller broadcasters and countries struggle to host the contest. So it sucks. But I understand, we have to see what's more important, a country to host the event, or for the EBU putting forward the most bombastic, amazing show with as many people as possible being able to attend. Matt, I think it's only a matter of money, I believe. They certainly know how bad the situation is, but they can't say anything because of the sponsor being Israel, and they don't have a backup sponsor. Well, it's exactly what it is about money, for sure. And they do know, though, at some point, the sponsor will not be enough if all these broadcasters withdraw. And right now, unfortunately, only the big broadcasters have the biggest say. But if you have 5, 6, 7 smaller broadcasters, just be like, bye bye, bitches, this will have an impact. This will have an impact. And then your sponsorship means nothing. And then maybe can come up with a different way to find sponsorship or potentially scale back on the contest and its expenses to make it more affordable and not raise the participation fees and find more smaller sponsors rather than just one big one. I know there's some other ones as well. I love all the dedication you're still putting into the EC, even though it's getting more toxic over the years and despite personal threats to you and your fams. Big love. Thanks. Thank you so much for that. I thought it was a question, but it was just a compliment. Well, I'll take the compliment. Yes, so it has been very tough, but I do believe that things will get better. And that's maybe the eternal optimist speaking. But I do think that these current growing pains are temporary, but also necessary. And that's what I'm hoping for. And I know I lost real life friends over a lot of this, what happened this year, which is unfortunate. There has been I made love to my block button like nobody's business, this year. But we'll get through this. And we need to focus on why we love the contest. The contest is not bigger than the EBU. Yes, the EBU runs it, but we don't love it because it's the EBU. We love the contest. We love the music. We love the artist. We love the countries. We may not have to love the EBU. Maybe one day we will again. But right now, that is what we need to focus on. We care about the song contest. So giving up on it is not an option. Do you hear me? Not an option. Uncle Maddie has spoken. So seriously, though, it is very, very important for that to stand out. So hopefully that is my message. If you take anything away from today's live stream, that is what I'm saying. Can each participating country not bring their own sponsors, thereby everyone having an equal footing? Who's going to sponsor, Albania? And keep in mind, they may only sponsor that particular participation. And the sponsor, then the country would have to sponsor that one. Then in each postcard, you have to see Albania, sponsored by L'Oreal, and you have to have Albania wash their hair on camera. And God forbid if somebody like Lithuania has condoms for sponsors, and then we have to highlight how to use condoms on Eurovision. No, I don't think so. Although maybe there's an idea. Maybe Eurovision shouldn't be family friendly anymore. But now I understand that this would be a little messy, but there needs to be another way in terms of sponsorship and all of that stuff. So yeah. So, but I understand the idea. You're throwing stuff out there and I like it in theory, but in reality, it wouldn't really work. Plus, we do have still participation fees. And I understand Russia being gone was a big hit for the contest because they put also a lot of money towards Eurovision. And now all the other countries have to pick up the slack there. So, but it was the right decision to do. Sometimes that it means more. So yeah. Are you concerned that the EBU might cut press numbers next year? So listen, we need to get some clarification on the whole press thing because there may be some misperception out there. So I'm glad you're asking that question. Each local broadcaster, whoever hosts, has a huge say in how many people can be on site. For instance, now that was also right after COVID, so maybe play a little bit, but the Italian broadcaster RAI had zero understanding about fan media, what they bring to the table. They didn't want to have any fan media there at all. That's why everyone basically just got only one on-site accreditation. Every single outlet, even Weeby blogs. Eventually they were fighting, got like a second one, so they had two. But that's because RAI pushed forward it. BBC had more middle ground stance on it, so we had a lot more people, and we saw a lot of fan media this year. Now, SVT has been always very fan media friendly. As much as we pick on SVT when it comes to Melody Festival and all of that stuff, they have been very fan friendly, and we got to give them a round of applause on that as well. We want that. Now, I also understand that maybe there is a line as well, because it was a little wild what we saw done by some of the press, some of the fan press. They have not handled things appropriately or professionally. I also don't believe in group punishment. You need to penalize the individuals that did not behave, and then don't give them access next year, and maybe have more strict rules in terms of like what you can or cannot do. But I do believe also supporting smaller channels. ESC United was smaller at some point. It was only me and Zach at some point, and we got in, and that really helped us to come back the following years. So I want new people to come, and get a chance, but there needs to be some sort of, clarification. So in terms of will the EBU, I don't think EBU can just completely cut out the fan media right now. They know they serve a purpose and they need us. It's just a matter of how they're going to select it. And it comes down to how fan media friendly Switzerland is. They're neutral, so you would think they would be very supportive. Who knows? That's just my stereotype of the Swiss people. Maybe you could get more sponsors if their products can be used in the postcards. A free personalized 30-second ad, kind of like the Super Bowl ads that would appeal to loads of sponsors. There's a problem with that, Mark. I agree in theory that would be great. However, a lot of broadcasters, especially the big ones like BBC, ARD, the German one, they do not allow any sort of sponsorship because they're public broadcasters, right? Made public on their broadcasting. It's against their rules. So if you had all these sponsorships, that would be against these guidelines and rules. So they would run against all of that. And it's a tough situation. I understand. Sometimes the EBU is in a tough position the EBU is put on trying to raise money. I totally get that. It's not as like, well, no sponsorship, I understand it's necessary, but it has to be subtle. And who wants to, which sponsor wants to pay that much money for a subtle advertisement? You know what I mean? So, yeah, it's very, very difficult to do that. It is very, very tricky. So I understand it's not an easy answer. So we need to be also careful with that. It's complicated. It's very, very complicated. We all need to learn from our experiences. Looking back at things, have you made any mistakes in your tone of your coverage this year? No, I was perfect. How dare you? Of course, I'm always looking back, and it's a very good thing. I am always reflecting what we could have done differently. One thing I changed on, it's less about the tone. I'd like to think I hit a decent tone, is how to handle the limitation of coverage. When it comes to Israel in particular this year, how to mention it and where it's appropriate to mention it. The first time, I feel like we could have been a little bit more direct, because initially, we made one statement, right? And then we said, we're not going to talk about it again. And after the first video, I was like, you know what? That's not working. You cannot pretend that they don't exist. So I had to change, like, look, they're rehearsing today, but that's all we're going to talk about, So it's just the tone that you start. And you're not going to make everybody happy. You know that. There's no such thing. If we bring world peace with our channel, there would be still people saying, well, no, I'm out of job. So yes, but you do reflect on things, how, if we would have to do it again next year, how we can be more effectively and offend less people. So that is basically how we look at. But yeah, of course, there's always room for improvement. And the team, we all have discussions afterwards. Okay, what can we do next year? Change it up to make sure that this is not going to be an issue forward. We decided Milka is the new sponsor of ESC. Milka. This takes me back to my childhood. It's my favorite chocolate. Oh, wait, do I remember the jingle in German? Hang on. Ich bin gone for so long. Milka, die zarteste Versuchung, seit es Schokolade gibt. That was when I was a kid. They always played that melody. Oh my God, it brings me back. Oh, I'm going to cry now. But Milka, yes, sign me up. Not quite perfect. Billy was needed to make it perfect coverage. Well, he'll be back in Switzerland. How about that? I'm still so happy that some people remember Billy the fire extinguisher. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Since we can no longer be really in the press center much because you cannot record anything during the live shows, you cannot have any reaction videos, certainly no live streams. It kind of kills the purpose of having them. Your biggest surprise in the jury vote and televote. Thank you, Dr. Ross, for the super chat, by the way. I will say this. Maybe it was because, I was out of commission for 6 months. So I listened to all 7 songs basically in a row once. I had a very different relationship and perspective, I think. And my gut was more right this year on most entries and outcomes than in previous years or ever, I want to say. So I almost want to never listen to the songs again until they're all out, but I couldn't do that. I would be too excited. But yeah, so in this year, there were not as many surprises. My point is, I think the biggest surprise actually is Switzerland. Look, I actually predicted Switzerland and France coming first and second in the juries in the grand final. What I did not expect is for Switzerland to have such a landslide win in the jury vote. And we all knew at that point Switzerland would win. So that was the biggest surprise to me. Not that Switzerland won the jury vote because I expected them to win or come second, but that they have such a huge lead, like 150 points or something like that. At that point, I kind of knew. I was pleasantly surprised. Not now. Let me rephrase that. Not surprised, but relieved that the jury saw a lot more quality in Ireland. I was worried they're going to drop it more, but I'm glad they saw the musicality in that entry, and I'm very happy about that. In terms of surprises flopping, we don't want Estonia, Finland, Norway, Slovenia, Georgia. I thought Georgia may be a little higher with the juries, but not much. So other than that, no, there were not many surprises. In terms of televote, no, I didn't see that many surprises. I didn't think Ukraine would get over 300 points going second. That's maybe a thing. I knew Ukraine would be in the top 5 in the televote. I didn't expect them to get over 300 points. I think that is the biggest surprise for me. Other than that, no. Let me take a look at the semis. I didn't think Malta would come last in semi 2. I thought it was a well-staged show. So performance, I thought they're going to go like 13th or something like that. The fact that came dead last, that was a surprise to me. Let me see. Who else? Czechia, no, I wasn't too surprised. Nope, in that semi, no surprises. Let me check the second semi. No, there were no major surprises for me, actually, besides that. So those were the ones that surprised me. People Norway last. I'm not, unfortunately. I knew that Norway would get slaughtered by the juries. I thought they're going to, you know what? I will say, I thought they're going to get a few more points from the televote. I will agree with that. But I didn't think it's one going to do well. I figured that Norway would be like 18th, 19th based on my predictions. Not maybe last. But I didn't think it was going to go as big as people thought it was going to go. That is my perception. But I mean, there were some, I thought some more points here and there, but there was not like a biggest, like, oh, like I'm falling off my chair kind of moment, which is, that's why I feel like this year I was pretty spot on, but that'll change next year. Any other questions at ESC United? I know that there's, we talked now an hour and a half about mostly just the drama, but once again, things will get better. I'm mostly worried about a lot of the artists because, whether it's Bambi Thug or the harassment that like Marina from Greece has faced or in Portugal, it's just they'll walk away with this like negative feelings towards the contest, and that is sad. They know that they have a lot of fan support, but it still sucks. It's very, very, very stressful. At least Germany's run to last place record was halted for 1 year. Can I toot my own horn again? Well, it's all on record, so you can find out that I said that a gazillion times. I always said especially the last few times. Roy and I agreed on that one, actually. I should have had Roy here today. Is that it's more likely for Germany to be on the left side of the scoreboard than coming last in the overall ranking. And sure enough, that is exactly what happened. People said it's a guaranteed last place with the televoters, and I said even if that were the case, which I didn't think was going to happen, um, the juries will prevent that from happening. Now, they were in the top 10 of the televoters. That's I thought Germany would end up like 14th, 15th. Now, actually, no, I think I thought it was like between 13 and 18th was my guess. So they did a little better than I thought. Not much, so but it was also because all the points in the televote were sucked up by the top 5, so Germany came 19th in the televote with only 19 points, but still with the current setup of the televote, that's just kind of how it goes. 19th in the televote, 10th in the jury vote, 12th overall. I saw it coming. So, and honestly, it was one of the better performances. Great voice, and he put so much energy and love into his performance. I was digging it. I probably wouldn't have voted for it either, that's the problem, but I really liked it, and I am not surprised. So I'm happy for Germany. The only thing I'm concerned about, y'all, are there any Germans in there? You need to hold your, well, we have a new broadcaster taking over, so maybe that'll change. But they need to understand, just because you got a 12th place right now, don't sit pretty. They have to thank the juries on this one. The system, the national final system, has to change. And now that they're getting a new broadcaster, probably MDR, right? I read about it, not NDR, which is Norddeutscher Rundfunk versus Mitteldeutscher Rundfunk, so from the north to the center. So we'll have to see how that's all going to pan out. But it was well deserved. I'm very happy for Germany. And he didn't deserve last place. He deserved the left side of the scoreboard. And I'm happy that they got that. Do you think that the bigger artists on the same level as Ollie Alexander and Slimane, for example, because of all the drama? Wait, let me read that again. Do you think that bigger artists on the same level as Ollie Alexander and Slimane, for example, because of all the drama? I don't understand the question, but I say it again. For the most part, big names, they don't matter, especially with just like I didn't know Ollie Alexander, I didn't know Slimane. Both of them are popular in their own countries, and maybe some outside folks, but for the most part, no one went in the, oh my God, it's Ollie Alexander, that this is going to change the votes. We've seen it over and over again. Your stardom has very little impact here. Now, if you all of a sudden had like Taylor Swift represent the UK, maybe you can make a case. I'm voting for Taylor Swift. But having a former boy band participant, represent UK with shaky vocals, it's just not going to be enough. So stop focusing on big names. Slimane, of course, has fantastic vocals, even when he was sick. His voice was lost and he still pulled it off. That is what matters. If you have a good established artist and they know who they are and they can pull it off, absolutely. But just having a famous name is not, with okay vocals, not going to happen. Sam Ryder, big name. He wasn't successful because of his name. He was successful because his song was great, he was great, and the whole package was amazing. So keep that in mind. So I would not put that much stock into name recognition. Do you suffer that the song quality could suffer next year due to the less artists being interested? Potentially, but it's also prematurely to think about that. That's why I sound like a broken record, y'all. That is why it is so important to speak out. Now we have to fight, save the reputation of Eurovision. And that's what has to be done. The Swiss broadcaster has to speak out in particular. I know they're always neutral. Out of all the years we have to go to Switzerland, who doesn't, but everyone has to speak out and fix what's going on. There needs to be more neutrality as well as transparency within the EBU and the decision making. And this is the time. This is the time to speak out and make changes. And hopefully that is going to happen. Just firing Martin Osterdahl may not be enough because the next person could be just as bad. So keep that in mind. Just firing people is not always the way to go. I'm not saying it shouldn't happen. I'm just saying that's not necessarily the solution to everything. A country usually does well when they send an unknownish good artist like Baby Lasagna. Who knew anything about him before this year? Yes, I think it's a very well point taken. But I will still stick to what I said earlier. It's less even unknown-ish. Lorraine was very well known and she did really well. It's about sending a good artist, singing that can sing, knows the song well, is connected to the song somehow, and that does it well. Duncan Lawrence is another great example. Very unknown. People were like, who is this dude? And why would we send him? And then the song was perfect for his voice, his style, and he knew the song, how to perform it. Baby Lasagna is another example. Nemo, same thing. So there are so many examples. And just picking, like, let's just send Ollie because, he's a former boy band singer and blah, blah, blah. It just doesn't make sense. It just doesn't make sense. And I still will say, despite the sad 0 points from the televote, the UK still came 18th, as the other 8 countries or so that, 7 countries now, that placed lower. They feel even worse. I know it hurts getting another 0 points from the televote because, it's been happening now a few times. But at the same time, you did left side of the scoreboard with the juries, and that needs to be taken into account as well. Not just dwell on the bad, but also the positive. And that is what happened there. So I'm always, there's always a silver lining. Matt, which staging impressed you the most and elevated the song in the best way for you? Well, obviously it's an easy answer. I mean, the Swiss staging was just out of this world. Loved it, loved it, loved it. Ukraine had wonderful staging. I mean, it was so beautiful. And the contrast between the two artists, the colors changes scheme was beautiful. But my all-time favorite, probably my all-time favorite stagings ever. It's because every single camera shot and view was on the nose. It made an experience is Ireland. Whenever you think about the song, visually, it was stunning. The direction. I still can't get over it. I watched that performance 18 times already, and I'm just in love with it. Absolutely. Absolutely in love with it. And it worked. Ireland's best result in 25 years almost, right? Shared with 2000. Didn't they come 6th in 2000 as well, I want to say? Right? And then in 1997, they came second. Am I missing one? No, I think. Yeah, so that's crazy. I just access my Eurovision history in my head. Do you think the audience of Eurovision in global will drop this year and next year because of all the controversy this year? That remains to be seen, and remains what the decisions will be made. Is Israel still going to be in a conflict next year? Is Israel going to take part if they're in a conflict? Have changes been made to the EBU and the participation? It could go either way. That's why we need to push and make sure that things go the right way, because we want the contest to succeed. And one bad year, to be fair, let's just even say the viewership drops by 30%. It would suck. It would hurt. And maybe it has to hurt. But it's still not going to be the end of the contest. I want to point that out as well. Thank you so much, Carl, for your super chat. I know it's been a tough year, but thank you and your team for this coverage. Bring on 2025. Love from the UK. Love right back to the UK. Yes, it was a difficult year, but I am ready to go to Switzerland, and I'm planning my trip after that as well. I will definitely go to Liechtenstein. I always want to go to Liechtenstein. I want to go to certain parts of France. Maybe I go to Nice. I always wanted to go to Nice. So I always plan ahead as well. That's why I don't want to go back to the same places. Sorry, Italy. You're the strongest and best country at Eurovision to me. But you cannot win again. I've been there like every year. I'm kidding, of course. If you win, you win. But, if it were for me to see places, I want to go to different locations. So, yeah. I'm trying to think, is there any other controversy? Let me double check the news. I feel like I still need to check stuff to see if anything has happened over the last couple of hours, because we're still kind of like in that cycle a little bit. But I think for today, we are good to go. No more crazy update, which I'm happy about, because I'm done with the drama. Now, we still have to address all of this as well going forward. It's not like all the stuff that has happened over the last week is going to go away, but I don't want to just focus on the negativity, because we're also trying to enjoy the contest. So that is also very important. Thank you so much, Thomas. Huge thank you to you and your team for great coverage of this year's Eurovision. Denmark hasn't qualified for the final for a while. We should Denmark to increase the chances of qualifying. Hugs and love from Denmark. Well, let me tell you something. Time for us, and again, those who follow me all the time, I said it before, I'll say it again. DR, right? The Danish broadcaster pissed me off last year. Uh, look, what they said after like the disappointing results from last year, and they basically saying, well, no, we're not doing anything wrong. We're doing great with our selection. We're not going to change anything. And it's just, people don't get our songs or something to that effect. I'm like, are you nuts? You need to change something. Germany sucks at Eurovision. At least they're trying something different every year, even though they're failing at it. But it just keeps. They're not changing the voting process, the super finals. They're not changing the song composition, like what the variety of music. And every year they keep failing, and the broadcast is like, oh, not our fault. And hopefully this year that will change. Don't get me wrong. I still am bitter of 21, one of my favorite songs. The televoters loved it as well. The juries drowned it. But I digress. It's still the last 3 years, like it's just bad. The attitude also from DR, and it seems like almost like dismissive. So hopefully that is going to change as well. It's the attitude that needs to change. That kind of what I'm hoping now happened in Ireland will now happen in Denmark. Because Denmark, you have the talent, you have the skills, you have the music. You just need to have the people in charge making better decisions. And this shouldn't happen. And people talk about Iceland as well. Yes, Iceland has a small market, so it makes it a little bit more difficult. But certainly, the super final was a bad decision, I think. And the song variety in Iceland is okay, right? But they're also what I love about them, and that's why I'm almost like hesitant criticizing them too much, due to the limitation when it comes to resources. They are sticking to like, we want to send people from our country, written by people from us, kind of thing, or co-written, all of that stuff. And I love that idea. I love the idea of bringing true Icelandic art to the contest and artists. I know that the runner-up wasn't wasn't Icelandic, but I do love that the songwriting often is part of that, and I really, really want to encourage that. At the same time, maybe have more like a committee selecting the songs. So I don't know. There is more openness for me to see changes in Iceland, but I don't want to lose the soul of that. Matt, thanks for the coverage this season. What are your YouTube plans for this off season? Good question, Arn. So off season, well, now that I'm hopefully healthy, it's not wood. My table is wood. There are a lot of things. So I'm bringing in my team even more. I already spoke with them. Over the next weeks and so, we will have more reaction videos to songs throughout the years at Eurovision. Of course, bringing you all the news as it's happening, but I will have my team heavily involved because next year, I'm going to be honest, I'll be in Switzerland. I cannot be on camera every single day, right? Doing every single rehearsal video. So I am nurturing a new team to become the co-face of ESC United. So I will have them more on live stream, then they can host it themselves. So I can also travel, actually, go into the arena and not just be always the one on live stream, and just have more variety of opinions as well. So if you are interested actually becoming like, if you think you can do this and you're interested in becoming more involved in ESC United, you can always reach us at info@escunited.com, and you want to be part of the team as well. So that is basically what we want to do. So it's not just me. Because it is hard, especially during those 2 weeks, me being on the live stream all the time, even if I'm just on there for like 30 minutes and somebody else handles it at certain times. I'll still be on most of them, don't get me wrong, but there are times where I have to do stuff as well. So yes, something like that. And yeah, because I'm not a very protective person in terms of like, this is me, it's my image, I want to be the talky ones. No, I'm enjoying this, I'm having fun, but I know that it's also time. I don't want to say new generation because it makes me sound old, but just a shared responsibilities, I guess. And especially a lot of the people on my team, they have their own YouTube channels, and they can use that to promote themselves, for the lack of a better word, right? I'm open and happy for other people to promote their stuff as well. People say, women on your team, Matt. We had two women in Malmö this year. A third of our team was basically female. However, a lot of the women don't want to be on camera. So I'm like, all right, that's fine. So whoever wants to join, male, female, non-binary, whatever, you can join. But I cannot force people. 2 is not much. I'm saying, well, if you have 6 people, 2 is a third. We had 6 people with accreditation in Malmö. So that's basically what it is. So I don't think this is, and not everyone wants to be in the front of the camera. And people ask about Sean. I don't know if he'll be back next year. He's still in Canada, and I think he's still focused on that. And I know that he's also very discouraged by everything that has happened this year. So he is not necessarily eager to come back right now. People ask about Zach. I'm so glad that people remember Zach from God, it's been 5 years since last time he took part. He has moved on with his life. He's not all about, his academic lives and all that stuff. So, but he pops on once a year to say hi, during the live chats as well. I miss him, of course, but now he is certainly, has moved on as well. So, but yeah, started out all with him back in the day, 2013, us fighting for Malmo, ironically. It was my first Eurovision, but it was my first Eurovision Express. Excuse me, I'm so thirsty. Matt, you and your channel have helped me really this last decade. Wow, such a fantastic discovery. Thank you so much. Well, we're not going anywhere except to Switzerland. But, we still got a little bit ways to go. Maybe I can do it again next year, since maybe some of the pre-parties. I'll see how it goes. I went to Barcelona last year, got injured, of course. Oh gosh, I can't do anything right. So, absolutely. Will you which host city do you think will host Eurovision? Well, the obvious choice is Zurich, of course, right? They have a proper arena, they have the proper accommodation. Secretly, I'm rooting for Basel, because I could stay on the German side. It's cheaper. Plus, me speaking, well, they speak German in Basel, so I guess I could stay there as well. So we will see. So that's was my hoping. What countries do you feel are going into momentum in 2025? Well, obviously Ireland and Croatia are the biggest one with momentum. In my book, Switzerland, I didn't mention because they already had momentum. You know what I mean? They've had plenty of good results over the years. And Croatia and Ireland, they have the momentum behind them. Ireland, I'm almost more confident that they will take advantage of it. I'm still concerned about the Croatian broadcaster realizing the potential that they have. So I'm hoping about that. So, and then Luxembourg, of course, first participation in over 30 years and coming 13th right away. That is quite impressive. So I hope that they will have a similar approach, and I think they can do really, really well. That's my hoping. Those are the ones that come to mind. What returnees do you think we will get next year? I don't know. This is too early. I mean, we get left side artists. I can actually answer the opposite. What I hope will not happen is Moldova sending another returning artists. Send some new fresh blood. That's what I'm thinking. But in terms of, Sweden, they have all these returnees trying to come back for Sweden, although they don't tend to win. Well, Lorraine did. So we will see. Other than that, I don't dislike having a lot of new faces, actually. People talk about the Netherlands. I don't think Jos Klein will return, at least not next year. I'd love for him to return. I think the broadcaster would be happy for him to return. I don't even know if it's the right thing for him to return at this point. Number one, I think he needs to take care of himself after all of this, what happened, whether or not he's going to be found guilty of this minor incident, allegedly. And number two, people will be he'll always compare Europapa to his new song, and it will be so hard to live up to that hype, especially right away. So I personally think it would be better for him to wait. So, but that's just my opinion. But right now, I think it's best for him not to return. I heard a theory that if he returns, he would win. I heard well, that's not a theory. That is just That's just an opinion. How would we know? You know, I honestly, because he wouldn't have won anyways this year, because even with a 300 plus vote from the televote, because the juries just really, really put him far down, which I saw coming as well. What do you think the UK's next move will be in terms of what they send or how they select the act? So my opinion is what they're currently doing, believe it or not, in some ways is almost working. They send good music. The songs are pretty popular pre-contest, right? And often done decently well in the charts. The problem is they need to send better artists, more artists that know who they are and more vocally stable and have a vision of the song. I'm talking Sam Ryder. Both songs last night. Instead, I wrote a song, or even Dizzy. They were not bad songs. They were quite popular, but both of them fell apart live. And bombastic staging did not save them. And that is what they need to do. Continue with what they're doing actually right now, but take vocal abilities more into account. That is what it is. Because the songs were just very difficult to listen to. That's basically what I'm saying. And hopefully that will all come together in the future. So that is basically my thinking. Which singer has already participated would you like to come back to Eurovision? Oh my God, so many of them. How can you ask me that? I would have to look at them all. Let me take a look at some of the ones that I want to come back just for them for revenge. I want the Roop back. I know they took part this year and didn't win. I love the Roop. I want them to come back and bring back the best result for Lithuania, because we cannot have We Are the Winners being the best result. I want Luke Black back because he deserved better. I want him to really succeed. Those were coming to mind right now. Kaino would be kind of cool to come back. I know they've been trying, but I guess Norway doesn't want them back at this point. Damiem wanted to come back. That is true, but I don't know if this is now that moment in time has passed. She would be great as well. Yes. So those were some of the ones that I would love to see come back. Some people mentioned Manzemalo coming back. I don't know if that's a wise decision, but Dadir from Iceland, that would be wonderful. But I think, yeah, I could see him coming back. He has a unique style, and he could certainly save Iceland. As long as he reinvents himself and not sings the same song again. So, but there's so many good artists, I couldn't even name them all right now. Do you think France has momentum coming into next year's contest into a neighbor country? Yes, I think they'll have momentum anyways. Look, last year was a little bit underwhelming, the results, right? They were not horrible. France has not done horribly. It was a good choice of a song, I think. Once again, the execution did not come together as well as they were hoped vocally and visually. France also didn't have the greatest running order on top of it. They still came 16th, somewhat middle of the scoreboard. So it wasn't a horrible result. So France has already been delivering really good songs over the last few years, and France is in it right now. So I think they're going in with momentum regardless of whether or not Switzerland is the neighboring country, in my book. But yeah, so I think that France, especially with them doing so well at junior right now, that they are slowly bringing that to the adult version. So I actually have high expectations from France, and a lot of people underestimated Slimane. I did not. I told you that he was going to do really well, and I said he is a potential winner. But once I saw that his voice gave up at the end, that kind of was, of course, the end of it. Plus, that big landslide win of Switzerland in the jury vote put an end to that, of course. And the whole weird televote results this time around, it was just a very odd year overall. But yeah, we'll see how that's all going to pan out. So yeah, it was a crazy year, my friends. And in some ways, we're glad it's over. But in other ways, I'm sad because, we all love Eurovision. And what are we going to do now with our lives? Talk about dust? I don't know. So I'm really, really sad, but just know now that health is back, that we'll give you content throughout the year. And we'll also continue to have live streams, not like all the time as much as before, but what we don't want to do is just wait until the next Eurovision national final season kicks off, we want to do that more frequently as well during the summer and all of that as well. And watch old Eurovisions. Yes, that's what I'm going to do. I want to bring some of my newer team members into the fray and make them watch songs from 1965 and 1987 and whatever. So that will be a lot of fun in my book. So we'll do all of that, of course, and all of the news. And y'all know I love you. You've been so kind and supportive throughout these last few years, especially the last few weeks, which have been draining. And but this all makes it worth it in my book. And I hope you all have a wonderful night. And once again, thank you so much. And let's bring it on. Basel 2025. I'm maybe going to Netta this one. I don't think Netta this year had a prediction, only because of the political situation. Such a shame, because I really wanted her to ruin it for all of us again. People want to see Gaston one last time. Well, he's asleep right now, but since I'm getting off camera, he can wake up. Hang on, y'all. No. Come here. The masses want to see you one last time. This is Gaston, my 8-month-old puppy. Want to say hi? No, he doesn't. So, yes, I'll be taking care of him when we're done. And we'll go from there. Oh, he just burped. A little doggy burp. So yes, I will be back. So don't you worry, okay? What do you say? We're just gonna do a cuddle session for 30 minutes on camera. How does that work? All right. So thanks again, everyone, and I will talk to you all soon. Okay. Bye.